and welcome back to Desert DIY. If you are new here, my name is Corey. Today I'm going to be taking this ugly desk and making it beautiful again. And I thought of a funny catchphrase for this, which is bad mood to moody blue. And I picked this up from the curb. A friend of mine said, "Hey, do you want a free desk? It's in really bad shape." And I said, "Yep," and she put it out on the curb for me, and I just drove up and picked it up. And I do this a lot. A lot of people know me now as the person who's flipping furniture. So I will get people reaching out to me with projects that they're going to get rid of. And now that I'm able to donate a lot of my projects, it helps people feel better about the fact that they're donating it to somebody who will then give it to somebody in need. And there is a saying that giving is better than receiving. And in doing these projects, I can completely agree with that. But back to the work. Right now I'm just taking a 220 grit sandpaper and sanding down the whole thing to kind of give some grip for the paint that I'm going to be using. The paint that I'm using is the leftover DIY paint that I had bought earlier on. I had not sprayed it yet, and I wanted to give it a second chance in using it in a paint sprayer. So you'll get to see me do that here. And I struggled a little bit on this part because there was like a child lock thing inside the desk. So I removed those as I was taking the drawers out. And the bottom drawer was a little bit wobbly, but it was still completely functional. So I left that as is because I am not great at fixing drawers. And I have to just know my strengths and weaknesses. And I feel like if I had messed with it, I would have made it worse instead of better. So that's why I just leave that one the way it is. Now I'm going to clean the piece with a magic eraser and some soapy water. I've had quite a few people ask me how I clean my pieces, and this is a method that I use very often. Magic erasers take off so much stuff. It's like using crud cutter but without the chemicals. And it also kind of de-shines the surface as I am using it as well, since it is like so abrasive. So it kind of is like two birds with one stone there, using that magic eraser. And you guys know me very well. You know I'm going to start all my projects upside down when painting. So that is why I started cleaning it right side up so that it would end upside down. Here is the DIY paint that I used. I picked the color Hay Sailor when I was going to try out this paint. I thought it was really pretty, and I wanted to try a color that I had never used before, or hadn't used that often at least. And with this paint, you have to shake it a lot. And when I say shake it a lot, I mean you really have to shake it a lot. It is clay-based, so it has like pieces in there that kind of settle to the bottom. And I want to show you up close how I'm going to water this paint down. It's a little trick that I have learned in using thicker paint and also using expensive paint. You're going to want to get every single drop that you can out of this. So while I'm watering it down, I'm going to use that as a chance to get out the rest of the paint in that jar. Instead of waiting forever for it to drip out, I water it down really good. Some people might do this also when using jarred food like spaghetti sauce or Alfredo sauce. You throw a little bit of water in the jar and shake it up to get the rest of the sauce out. And I also do that. So that is why I figured I could do that with this paint. And then I watered it down just a little bit more because I saw that it was still kind of thick. And with a spray gun like I have, you can't spray thick paint out of it. It will just sputter and the finish will look really bad. So at first, my paint gun did sputter like I was talking about, and I want to show you what that looks like. So I will show you that really quick. The problem was just that that thick paint had already gone down into the filter. So I just had to keep shaking it up and get the thinner, watered down paint mixed in there down to the filter of the spray gun, and then it sprayed perfectly fine. The paint does go very quickly when you're spraying it. I had to use 2 jars of that paint, which comes to almost $30. So I want you to keep that in mind when using this paint. Like I had said in my video about how to make money flipping furniture, artisan paints like this take away a lot of your profit. So if you are doing a project for yourself, that's totally fine. But if you are somebody who had to buy the piece and then paint it and you're going to resell it, you may want to consider a less expensive paint. And that $30 is not even including the clear coat. So I decided that I wanted to spray inside the drawers as well, just because It gives it a cooler, more finished look, and it also makes it to where I don't have to tape off the sides when I paint the fronts of the drawers. And I'm only going to show you these 2 drawers because the film of me painting the other ones for some reason disappeared. Later on in the video, I'll be showing you how I use some drawer liners to finish off the inside of these drawers, which is why I'm not painting all the way around the inside along the bottom of the drawer, because I like to use drawer liners as like a surprise pop of something really fun for the person who's going to be inheriting this piece. And it just depends on what I have on hand at the time, what I'm going to put inside the piece. But in this piece, I had really cool drawer liners, so stick to the end and you'll see those in the end. Now I'm just going to do the top down with the piece right side up, since I started it upside down. I just want to make sure that I hit all the different angles, and I had to be careful not to run out of this paint again because I had to buy a second jar of it. It goes so fast through this paint gun. Once that was all done and it was dried, make sure you wait until it's dry to do this. Then I go on the top and use my orbital sander to sand off all that paint. I didn't worry about getting that blue paint on the top because I knew I was just going to be sanding it back. The DIY paint sands off really easily. That's kind of one of the perks of it, and that's why so many people like using it for distressed finishes, because you can pull it back off very easily. So getting it on here was not a big deal. I could just easily take it off with a sander. And I started with 60 grit sandpaper, but that was just making the piece kind of like heat up too much. And when that happens, when you're sanding off latex paint, the latex paint starts to kind of get sticky from the heat, and then you can't get it off until it cools off again. So I switched it to 80 grit sandpaper, and then at the very end of this whole sanding process, I go back over everything with 220 grit to close up that wood grain, make it really smooth and soft before staining it. And I think I used 9 pieces of sandpaper in total for this. And I want to mention that I do not like using strippers on, I mean paint strippers, don't have your mind in the gutter, but I don't like using paint strippers or finish strippers on pieces like this, because then you have to wait for a long time for it to do its job. Plus, in the desert, they just are not that effective. You have to really wrap them to be airtight, or else it dries out faster than it removes the paint. So for me, this is my favorite method, and here I am going over it with the 220 grit now, and it just felt so smooth. I wish you could have felt it. It was like so soft. And then, of course, my favorite method of getting the dust off is just using my air compressor with a little blower attachment. The wood stain that I chose was Espresso from Minwax, and it was actually really hard for me to pick a wood stain for this piece because this light color looked really good. I could have stayed in the light family, and I have quite a few other stains that are really cool. I think one is called like briar smoke or barrel something, and it's like a gray brown. There's just so many amazing stains out there now that it's hard to pick one when you're doing a project like this, especially because I can just base it off of what would look cool. I don't have to worry about if it will match my house since I'm not going to be keeping the piece. You can really get creative with your stains now. I just can't believe how many options there are. And I get my stains mostly from Walmart. Now for the clear coat, I used Big Top. And I don't remember how much this cost, but I used the entire container. So add that to your cost when doing this piece, and I would have to sell this piece for quite a bit of money in order to get a profit. Especially if I had to pay for it at a thrift store. So just really keep that in mind, what your end goal is for your projects when picking out your supplies like paint. So if you want your end goal to be that you could paint this without any harmful chemicals, then yes, DIY Paint did a great job. It sprayed on really well. I really liked the Big Top over the paint when I sprayed it. I don't really like it as much when I'm brushing it on, but when you spray it, it looks great over the paint. Gives it a really nice kind of flat, soft looking finish. Over the wood though, I prefer polyacrylics finish. In the future, if I were to use Big Top again, I would do poly on top and use the Big Top over the paint. I just prefer that. It's not like it did a horrible job or anything like that. I just would prefer polyacrylic over the big top just for the wood top on this piece. Now these handles, you guys have probably seen me use a few times. If you are new here though, I just want to mention, on Amazon, if you buy these in bulk, which is about 30 pieces in bulk, they come out to around 50 cents a piece. So if you are somebody who's flipping furniture, or just somebody on a tight budget that has quite a few things to fix up, or wants to do the same handles throughout their house, this is a great budget-friendly option, and you can just spray paint them any color you want if you don't like that finish. Here is that drawer liner that I was talking about. I bought it from TJ Maxx, and it's actually scented, which I thought was really cool. You don't see that very often anymore. It's more of an old school type of thing. But I did not glue it down because I didn't know if the person who was going to inherit this piece was going to like the girliness of it. It could have been for a boy, which it turned out it was for a boy, so I'm glad I made this removable so that they can just take it out and put in a different drawer liner if they want, or they could adhere this one if they did like it. Here is the finished product. I am so happy with this color combo. I'm so thankful for people who reach out to me with free projects, and so thankful that I can then pass them on to somebody for free because of people like you who watch my channel and support my work and help me get paid doing what I love to do. And I also want to thank you all for playing the guessing game about what this desk was going to be redone in. That was really fun playing that game with you guys in my community tab, and I will definitely be doing that again in the future. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And if you liked what you saw, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Thank you. Bye.